Good evening or morning or whatever time of the day it happens to be. Welcome one, welcome all to the Writer's Block podcast. I'm your host, Greg Nykus, and this week I'm sitting down with best-selling author Deborah Goodrich Royce to talk about her latest thriller novel, Best Boy. We'll talk about how her decades of experience in the entertainment industry helped shape this book, her own journey of reinvention, be it personal or professional, some of her top tips for building suspense in your writing, and so much more. If you're enjoying the Writer's Block podcast, please consider leaving us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or our YouTube channel. You can also follow along with us over on social media. We are at Writer's Block Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Send us an email with your episode suggestions to writersblock@gmail.com. And if you want to go the extra mile and help us keep the lights on, you can follow along and support the show directly over on our Patreon. That is patreon.com/writersblockpod. All right, gang, let's get into today's conversation with Deborah Goodrich Royce. You've affectionately been crowned Queen of Plot Twists. How did that reputation come about, and how do you feel about that nickname now? Does it create any extra pressure for you when you are going in to create a new book?
It creates a lot of pressure, but I feel good about it. I feel in a weird way like every book is its own little gift. You know, if an idea comes to you, you're lucky. If you're able to develop it into a full-fledged novel, you're luckier. And if there's a plot twist that comes along and it's organic and natural and really works and doesn't feel like you pasted it on from another book, you're the luckiest of all. I don't want to feel I always have to have a twist, although I love the ones I've had. I think it's okay to have a good reveal instead of a twist. If your readers don't know the difference, in a reveal, it's when you're going along and there's a question of who did it and it is revealed who did it. In a twist, you're going along and there's a question of who did it and suddenly you come to find out it wasn't even done at all what you thought was done. So that's the difference.
You've had a really multifaceted career in the entertainment industry, from an acting at an early age to working as a story editor, and now you're creating your own books and your own media projects. You have a very unique perspective because of your experience and how that world actually works. And in Best Boy, you don't stray away from the less glamorous side of the industry. Did you ever feel responsible or a responsibility to be especially honest about those parts of your experience when writing the story?
That's a great question. Yeah, I do feel a responsibility to be honest about aspects of really anything I'm describing. And the movie business does play a part in 2 of my 4 novels because it was a major part of my life. And in this book, I did receive an email from a man who said he was the best boy in a film I'd done. And he had a variety of touch points we shared, and it kind of ended on a crazy note where he said we had run into each other and I was holding a baby and he wondered if the child was his, which was a bit of a shock since I didn't remember him. And he did wrap it up by saying, of course I know that wouldn't have been possible. So I was very relieved, but it got me thinking about memory and the nature of film sets, this coming together of people for a very intensive couple of months, and then the splitting apart of those people, and those kinds of relationships do play prominently through the book, Best Boy.
Going from acting at an early age on a show like All My Children to where you are now, you've obviously lived many different lives throughout your experience. Was ever a decision for you to make a conscious effort to reinvent yourself along the way, or looking back, does your career feel like it was more of one continuous path than a series of reinventions?
Wow. Both and. Yes, no. Fabulous question. I've never been asked that.
Thank you.
I feel like life has given me, like all of us, at various points along the road, roadblocks, obstacles that have come up. To take it away from career for a minute, I went through a divorce years ago, not my choosing to end the marriage. I was blindsided by it. So many people have had this experience. And in the end, when I didn't think I'd recover from that, not only did I recover, I started a new life and got remarried and became a writer. And so I think we go along, and what is that saying? God laughs when you make a plan. We have our plans, the PLANS, all in capital, and we're going along. With my acting career, it was going gangbusters. It reached a point where I was screen testing for major films. My agent told me, no more television. You're not going to do any television at all. You're here at this point. I was newly married, and I got pregnant. After I had the baby, there was a writer's strike. So there was this long chunk of time that I took away from acting. And when I went back, it wasn't the same. I wasn't the same. And there was a slow turning away from it to the next chapter of life. So I won't go through every little transition, but those are a couple of examples of things that I might not necessarily have chosen to change, but looking back, I'm so glad they did change.
Your books have an air of mystique to them, whether it is the relation secrecy of Reef Road, the historical intrigue of Ruby Falls, or the more psychological side of things portrayed in Best Boy. Where did your love of suspense and unanswered questions come from as a reader and as a writer, and maybe who were some of your early influences?
I'm a huge Hitchcock fan in terms of movies. I think he was the master. I love Brian De Palma films. They're 25% too violent for me. I could tone that down. So you get a feel for the genre that I like. Those are all meticulously developed suspense where things are revealed along the way, and there are twists. I've read, I just went on a binge. I read about 25 Agatha Christie books because I got a contract to write a cozy mystery, which we can talk about if you want. Agatha Christie's a cozy mystery writer. And I thought, well, I just need to refresh myself on her books. Wow, does she hold up? If you haven't read Agatha Christie lately, she's really not dated in her sensibility. So, so many influences with books and movies.
So then going into this book, Best Boy, I guess kind of starting off simple, why did you pick the title Best Boy?
Well, because of that email that came through where he said, I was your best boy. And then double and triple entendres developed from Best Boy. The protagonist is a mother of a 10-year-old boy, Theo. He is her best boy. And this secret she has in her past, this thing that happened to her when she's a girl in high school, a senior in high school, she's a victim of an assault at the hands of a boy. It starts to have different meanings, which I like. I like that layered quality.
The novel examines vulnerability and trust in close relationships. What were the biggest challenges for you in portraying those dynamics honestly without ever revealing too much too soon?
I think the biggest challenge in Best Boy was the relationship between Vivica and her husband. I think it was very easy writing her relationships with her girlfriends. She has some very strong girlfriends who really jumped off the page. Her childhood girlfriend, M, and then her adult agent and friend, Rachel. Those are characters that grew and grew as I wrote, just because I liked them more and more. I think Vivica is less confident in her relationships with men for a lot of reasons, including the thing that happened to her as a girl.
Without giving away any big plot twists or anything like that, how did you approach building tension in the story while maintaining empathy for all the characters involved?
So tension is created. You look at the cover of the book. There's the mailbox with the letter in it. The first moment that Vivica goes out the door, she asks her housekeeper, did you get the mail? Housekeeper says no. She's going to get it. She sets down her cup of coffee. She opens the door. She sees the sky. She sees the trees. She sees the flowers. It's a moment of acute observation. She walks down the gravel walkway. She feels the crunch of the gravel beneath her feet. And that's a very Hitchcockian technique. You hyper-focus on what's going on, almost in slow motion, of all these tactile and visual senses around you. And then she gets the letter and the bomb is dropped. And that's how surprises come to us in real life. It's always on an ordinary day, isn't it?
Mhm. Definitely. With those details, when you're getting into the finite little Hitchcockian things to build the tension, or even help with the pacing, a lot of writers struggle to find those big things. Describing the cadence of a conversation is difficult. Have you ever struggled to write out those details, or has that always kind of flowed naturally to you? And if so, do you have any advice for people who might struggle with that?
Slow down. That's the advice to people who might, to slow down. Because if you're racing to get to in my case, the mailbox, the letters at the mailbox, and if you're racing to get to the mailbox, you're not going to get everything you can out of the moment. So you have to slow yourself down and revision, 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 revision. So if you've rushed the reader to the proverbial mailbox, slow it down. Have her drop her coffee along the way. Have her stop. Have her pick it up. Spill it on her leg. Brush it off. This doesn't happen in my book, but yank it back a little bit if you're struggling with it. And we all can describe anything. I wrote a scene where something's going to happen in one of those walk-in coolers at a restaurant, and when the young waitress walks in, I can't even remember, something with a ketchup bottle. The ketchup bottle's not in the right place. There's something, so the reader's attention gets diverted in that moment to the ketchup bottle, and then the thing happens.
Okay.
And you brought up the word cadence, and I would always recommend reading your book aloud. It's a long and laborious exercise, but it's so worth it because you will discover artificiality in your own cadence. You'll discover the clunkers. You will also discover repetition. How many times can I say the word? What did I say? An editor said to me, Deborah, you used the word toward 300 times. She walked toward the wall, toward the refrigerator. I was like, oh my God. I have to change my usage of the word toward. But it is through reading your book aloud that you discover that.
Family expectations and identity quietly shape the story. How did you decide what parts of the protagonist's inner world to reveal to the reader and what to deliberately withhold?
So Vivica, as a girl, is called Ingrid. She has a less than happy family. She lives next door to a family that is a very different kind of family, a very cohesive, loving family where she spends a lot of time. So the family structure of her own family versus the Waldrons next door is vitally important. And it is something that Ingrid as a girl and then Vivica as an adult, she changes her name. She is always trying to create that perfect world that she has control over. She's trying to exercise a little white knuckle control. She has these shadow boxes when she's little. She becomes an actress. All of those are ways of creating an artificial, happier reality than your own.
There's a strong emotional realism in this book. How did you approach dialogue and character psychology in this story, going through the experiences that you've gone through?
When I sit to write, I sit in a quiet room all alone and really go very deeply into that place. I try to approach every character from within, even if it's not a point of view character. They're all, in the end, the real people in a way. I realize they're not, but they need to be people we feel we've met and we know and we understand, or don't understand, as the case may be.
Out of all of your projects, all of your books, do you have a character that maybe is a little bit more of a POV character for you than other protagonists might be?
I think the main characters in all of my books reflect parts of me. I have pieces in there. And certainly with Ingrid Vivica, the idea of reinvention, I think this is America, and that is part of our lore, that we are in the land of reinvention. We can become whoever we want. We can go from nowhere to somewhere and become somebody. And I like to examine that.
And then Best Boy explores the idea of moral ambiguity without offering any easy answers. What kind of conversations were you hoping to spark for readers of your book?
Oh, exactly those. I'm glad you brought that up. I want to talk about Vivica's sense of guilt and shame over what happened to her as a girl and its after effects. We do live in a culture, I think the whole world, the parts of the world, it's actually worse than it is here, where the things that happen to us, we carry often tremendous shame over, and shame is a very damaging emotion. And I wanted to really dig into all of that. And I love talking to book clubs because there are so many spoilers that I can't really get into now, that in a book club setting, we could really have at.
So you mentioned your Agatha Christie project a little earlier. Do you want to dive into that a little bit and kind of share what you can share about it?
Yeah, well, that was a co-writing project that I can't really talk about that is, tripping along, but I'm writing another cozy mystery on my own, and it's a mother-daughter ghost story, and I felt like it just downloaded in my head, the genesis of it, not the whole book. Right after my mother died, I really felt like, okay, Mom, I hear you. It's a mother-daughter ghost story. If you think of the relationship in terms of endearment between Deborah Winger and Shirley MacLaine, very contentious, scrappy, funny mother-daughter relationship, and you mix that with the book/movie, The Ghost and Mrs. Muir, you will have this book that I'm working on, and it's funny, funny, funny.
No, we really look forward to checking it out when it's out. Deborah, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you.
Guys, go check out Best Boy wherever you get your books, and be sure to stay up to date with everything that Deborah is doing by heading over to her website, deborahgoodrichroyce.com. Next week on the podcast, I am sitting down with acclaimed screenwriter Billy Ray to talk about his debut novel, Burn the Water.
I was a member of the Writers Guild and the Directors Guild, and the Writers Guild was on strike. And the rule is that while you're on strike, you cannot be doing any contracted work. So that's it for screenplays and television. But writers write, and if you're a writer, it's impossible not to write. And I had to be working on something. And so the novel just sort of exploded during that period.
If you're enjoying the Writer's Block podcast, please consider leaving us a review over on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, or your podcasting platform of choice. Keep up to date with everything that we're doing over on social media. We are at Writer's Block Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Send us an email with your episode suggestions. We are writersblockpod@gmail.com. And if you want to go that extra mile and help us keep the lights on, you can support the show directly by following us over on Patreon. That is patreon.com/writersblockpod. And if for some crazy reason you want to keep up to date with what I am doing, all my new projects, all the crazy stuff that I'm doing, you can head over to my link tree for links to my YouTube channel, my social media, whatever other crazy kooky stuff that I have going on. I think I still sell skateboards. I should check my link tree to make sure it's up to date. That is linktr.ee/GREGNYIKOS. Thank you one more time to Deborah Goodrich Royce for joining us in the podcast this week. Until next time, I've been Greg, you've been awesome, and keep writing.